and directed by George Seaton, Miracle on 34th Street has stood the test of time and remains a Christmas classic 75 years after its premiere. Initially released in the spring of 1947, Miracle stars Maureen O'Hara, John Payne, Natalie Wood, and Edmund Gwenn as Kris Kringle. While it may not look like it to modern audiences, Miracle on 34th Street is a film ahead of its time. O'Hara's Doris is a divorced career woman raising her child on her own. While the script appears cruel to the character, it does reflect the time by showcasing the feelings towards divorced women. Doris has a guard up as she tries to mirror the successes of the men around her and having to work twice as hard to do so. With the film's many messages of love, joy, and faith, and its stance against consumerism and the commercialization of Christmas, Miracle on 34th Street will continue to stand the test of time. Thank you for joining me on the Quiet Riot, where we discuss film, television, and media. I'm Ainsley, and in today's video we are going to be discussing Miracle on 34th Street, released in 1947. Things that happened in pre- and post-production, as well as during production, the reason this film was made, while zeroing in on the commercialization of Christmas in Miracle on 34th Street. That was pretty much why this whole movie was made, and until this last time that I saw it, I didn't really recognize those themes and how that's a big part of the conversation that's existing in Miracle on 34th Street. But before we go any further, I do want to say thank you to all of my subscribers. This is an incredibly small channel at the moment, but those of you that have decided to stick around and just those that have been viewing my videos have really helped me realize that this is something I enjoy doing. Even when you enjoy doing something, regardless of any successes that come while doing it, it can still be very difficult to continue going even when you have a few people here and there watching your work. So thank you. It makes me feel good, and it makes me feel a lot more motivated and inspired. So I just wanted to come on here and say thank you. I appreciate you, and I hope that everyone is having a great holiday season no matter what you celebrate. Adapted from a story by Valentine Davies for the screen by George Seaton, who also directed Miracle on 34th Street, has since been adapted for radio and stage, remade 3 times for television, with a 1994 remake released to theaters. While the first film was still in theaters, Davies turned the script into a novella, and that is still in print today. After hiring a nice old man to portray Macy's Santa Claus, the director of the Thanksgiving Day Parade is shocked to find him claiming to be the real Santa. When his sanity is questioned, a lawyer defends him in court, arguing that he is in fact Santa and that Santa does exist. With a little help from families everywhere and the post office, Kris Kringle may just be able to make it to everyone's house on Christmas after all. The film was an immediate success upon its release. Edmund Gwenn, best known at the time for his work in theater, won a supporting Oscar for his role as Kris Kringle. In his speech, he said, "Now I know there's a real Santa Claus." The film also won for Best Original Story for Valentine Davies and for Best Original Screenplay for George Seaton. This was the first major film for child star Natalie Wood, who would go on to have many successes as a teen and adult actress. She's best known for work in films such as Rebel Without a Cause, Splendor in the Grass, and Bob and Carol, Ted and Alice. When I was a teenager, I was absolutely obsessed with Natalie Wood, and I still love her to this day, but I just had a very special interest in her and her work. I remember reading this biography and just being enamored with her passion and her work ethic, and how she really came to be her own person despite the difficulties she had in her childhood regarding her stage mother. I highly recommend the documentary that's available on HBO Max that was made by her daughter Natasha and has involvement from other family members. When the film was in pre-production, O'Hara, who needed a break from Hollywood, had left the US for Ireland. Unfortunately, she would only get to spend a few days there before being summoned back to Hollywood. She was still under contract and had to fulfill it. She was furious until she read the script and fell in love with it. There are many people who have said that they didn't really think the film was going to be a success. A lot of those were producers, so they didn't want to put too much into this film. A lot of the reasons why this movie is so good because it was the cast and crew on the actual film that believed in it, and George Seaton was an advocate for this film, and Edwin Gwynn was a big advocate for this film, and I'm really glad that they are, because since this film's release it has gone on to pretty much be watched on cable and streaming services, and it's become a family tradition for many across the world, including myself. With a great deal of film shot on location during a New York winter, the cast and crew had to deal with some difficult moments. The parade scene was shot during the real Macy's Day Parade in 1946, meaning they only had one chance to get it right. There are many wonderful moments throughout the film that are either Easter eggs shot on location or callbacks to Christmases of days past. I will link an article by the Bowery Brothers History in the description box below, and I highly recommend that you check it out after you finish this video. A big problem with the commercialization of Christmas is the consumerism that it breeds. Christmas is supposed to be about a lot of things, but presents is not really one of them. Of course, it's great to be able to buy or make things and give it to friends, children, your pets. I happen to give gifts to my beautiful dog all the time for like even made-up holidays. So it's a great part of Christmas. I just think that especially nowadays when you have the internet and you have social media, there's so much online shopping going on, and there's so many different sales days that is meant to entice you to shop, and there's so many different places to give your money, empty your wallets and your bank accounts. Now, it's totally great when you can go out and support small businesses, and you can support your friends' businesses and their art, and it's great when you as a business owner has people come and you have these upticks in sales. I think that's a great aspect of the holiday season, and anytime there's gift giving, it can be great for businesses, but definitely corporations, big corporations such as Macy's and Gimbel's, both that are mentioned in this movie, they tend to overdo it, and it's in many ways, especially in the past, I mean really since this movie was released, but especially within the 21st century with the growth of both the internet and social media, the big corporations have really had to step up their game, and in doing so, the big corporations have been helping each other to put them in front. It's the more followers you have, the more subscribers you have, and smaller businesses really get pushed down. And this can be seen in the beginning of A Miracle on 34th Street as Kris Kringle is walking down the street, and you just basically, you see all these small businesses. And I really love the moment where he stops in front of this small business. I don't really know how small the business was, but I do know that, he's doing the reindeer, and I love that little moment. I think it's just a great introduction to the character of Kris Kringle. But this in itself is a little Easter egg, as that business actually would decorate celebrities' homes and people who could afford it. So it's great to just get that little moment in there to kind of see things outside of Macy's. And I love going, I'm in Louisville, so I love going to the Highlands, and I love going anywhere where there's a lot of small businesses and local businesses, because there's this sense of warmth and tradition and just appreciation for both the customer and the artist and the seller and the business owner. And I just saw so much more in watching Miracle on 34th Street as a 32-year-old who is essentially working for a small business or a smaller business, who is trying to do my own thing and who's also wanting to support small and local as well as the businesses of my friends. So it hits a lot closer to home, and I've really found it difficult, even when I was not an adult, to really find a lot of joy in the Christmas season. It can be so overwhelming, and it's only gotten worse. But there's a part of me that thinks it is getting a little bit better, because with everything that's happened in the past few years, we've seen as more companies are closing on Thanksgiving. They're not opening as early on what is it called? It's not opening. It's not opening as early on Black Friday. I don't really support Black Friday. That's kind of a lie, because Black Friday really has gone beyond the Friday itself. I have in the past, especially when you're younger, it's nice to hit the sales, but I really like doing Small Business Saturday, because I, like to support small businesses all the time, but it's kind of nice to have that reminder of let's go and just enjoy small businesses with other people who enjoy and support small businesses. A lot of these things, though I'm talking about them now in a present context, they still very much existed in 1947 when there was these big booms going on in regards to after the war. A lot of businesses were getting bigger and growing, and things were becoming more corporate, and this would continue to grow long after this film's release. Miracle on 34th Street was made as a response to the commercialization of Christmas, and somewhere along the way that message has been lost. Probably because that message didn't benefit the big company. And by the way, I am definitely not lost on the fact that I watched this on Disney+. Disney is one of the biggest corporations, if not the biggest corporation in the world. It has bought up a lot of other corporations and other big business. It's got Marvel, it's got Star Wars, and it was already big before it had either of those things. And you see similar things happening with things like HBO Max and what they're buying, and who's in control of that, and how they're basically squashing artists, and whether they're big or small, that's never okay. So I should have just watched my DVD, but it's, it is what it is. I don't know. I'm being hard on myself about something that's completely out of my control, and I would just say the best things you can do, also just try supporting small artists, and don't just give to Disney and other companies, like big companies like that all the time, Miracle on 34th Street is far more than a holly jolly Christmas movie. It's a film about faith, whatever that means to you. Even in 1947, underneath the Hays Code and amid Hollywood studio system, a film was made that challenged the very idea of big business. The film essentially tells Macy and Gimbels they are doing it wrong, and yet they approved their companies being used in the film. A big part of me thinks that the reason is far beyond it being a joyful movie. I definitely think it's warm, and it's got this big heart that a lot of people, regardless of where they are in society, what they're doing, is going to enjoy. But I also think that Macy's and Gimbels saw this big chance for their names to be seen in this big Hollywood movie, in this studio film. And while Macy's had been around for years prior, it was gaining a lot of leeway. And I don't really know anything about Gimbels. I forgot to look up if it was even a thing still, but I'm sure they as well got a lot of traction from this movie. So as much as I think this movie did for Christmas, I think it also may have stumbled a bit in using real company names. But I can also understand the reasoning to do so, to add a touch of realism and to make the film more grounded in our own reality. And what I actually think is very interesting is that they didn't get the approval to use either Macy's or Gimbel's names until after they already made the film. So if they didn't say yes, if just one of them didn't say yes, they would have to go back and do a lot of expensive edits and reshoots. The biggest question looming over the heads of characters and viewers at home is, Was Chris really Santa, or just a man who believed himself to be Santa Claus? Well, the interpretation is up to you. Valentine Davies and George Seaton wanted two very different things. Davies wanted Santa Claus to be the real thing, the real deal, while George Seaton wanted him to be just a man who thinks he's Santa Claus. They couldn't come to an agreement, so they decided to settle somewhere in the middle. They decided to keep everything ambiguous. I think this really worked in the film's favor. When I was a kid, I definitely thought that he was 100% the real deal. He was Santa Claus. And now as an adult, I look at it a little bit different. And while I haven't completely decided what I think, I do see more the idea that Kris Kringle is just a really nice old man who wants to bring jolly to other people. I don't necessarily know if he thinks himself to be really Santa Claus, but I definitely consider that more of a possibility than I ever considered before, especially in my childhood. What matters in this movie is that consumerism does not remain at the center of Christmas, and that is instead the joy, love, and everything that comes with it. A Miracle on 34th Street is a lot more layered than I initially thought it was. I thought it was just a fun and joyful Christmas movie with some issues. Let's just say the doctor is a major asshat, a meanie, a bad dude, a quack. But more than that, it's really the idea of the commercialization of Christmas and the commercialization of holidays and big business, and how all of these things can really destroy our happiness and everything that came before it. Of course, there were businesses long before Macy's came to play, and there was things going on long before the 1940s and way long before what's happening now. But within the 20th century, things were getting worse and worse, and with war and people coming in to really just take advantage of everything that was going on. We see it happening today. We see it happening with social media and the internet. We see it happening in our big stores, whether it be online or stores that still remain in person. We have Amazon, and we have companies I don't even care to share about on my platform. But the message of Miracle on 34th Street remains clear, and that is that Christmas is more. It's a state of mind. And that means that Santa Claus is a state of mind too. So I'm here to say, I believe. I believe. It's silly, but I believe. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, please hit a like, and if you want to see more from me, hit subscribe and ring that bell to be notified every single time I post. I would love to have you here. If you have anything to add to the conversation, or you just want to say hi, drop a comment down below. I will leave any research that I've done, links, and social media will be linked in the description box below, and I hope to see you next time. Merry Christmas.